Today I'm going to be discussing HyperDocs, and I thought the best way to present the topic would be through the use of an actual HyperDoc. Within this Google Doc, there are links to outside resources that will help us through the learning process. So let's get started. So according to the creators, HyperDocs are transformative, interactive Google Docs, replacing the worksheet method of delivering instruction. It is the ultimate change agent in the blended learning classroom. With strong educational philosophies built into each one, HyperDocs have the potential to shift the way you instruct your technology. They are created by teachers and given to students to engage, educate, and inspire learning. It's not about teaching technology, it's about using the technology to teach. So what are HyperDocs? HyperDocs are carefully crafted by the educator. They are visually engaging and package learning experiences for the students. They are how students use technology to create, collaborate, think critically, and connect to the content. They are not just Google Docs with links, pre-made curriculum, and a new app or web tool. So what can you do with a HyperDoc? Let's learn more. The possibilities are endless. You can really create your own journey. So this HyperDoc was packaged using Google Docs and Google Slides, but there are many other options that you have. The purpose is also to connect to interactive content. So within a HyperDoc, you can connect to videos, like on YouTube, any sort of text resources, any online articles, interactive websites, collaboration, creation, and assessment tools. So within my HyperDoc, I've linked to various articles that I found that were useful about HyperDocs, also some collaborative tools such as Padlet about HyperDocs, and also a picto chart that explains HyperDocs. So some cons of HyperDocs. The learning curve to develop a HyperDoc can be quite large for a teacher, and it's pretty time intensive to create a HyperDoc from scratch. Good thing there's lots of templates that are available online. Also, a common pitfall is that HyperDocs just become another fancy worksheet. So it's really important to be mindful of the interactive content you include in your HyperDoc. So pros of HyperDocs. They allow students to interact with a variety of digital artifacts. Students can either collaborate together or work independently. There's much deeper engagement with the content. Students can kind of personalize their learning, and students can really work at their own pace. Also, another pro is that it can kind of organize the content for a specific unit. One teacher also mentioned that they can be quite useful when there is a substitute for the day. Students can continue to learn at their own pace and kind of explore content without the teacher's presence. So here are some examples of HyperDocs. There are just 3 ones that I found pretty easily. So we'll look at the first one. So this template, really gives 6 phases of learning. So we have engage, explore, explain, apply, share, and reflect. So each phase, the student does some learning on their own, and then they accomplish a task that the teacher sets up for them. Another template that is a little bit more simplistic. This really just focuses on the explore, explain, and apply. And then the left-hand column, the teacher would create the resources, so any links to images, videos, or articles which you want the students to explore. And then underneath the Your Task column would be the instructions, or even students could have some sort of response that they have to put there. It's kind of whatever the teacher wants. Like I said, you can kind of create your own journey, and you can have the students do a variety of things. The last template is geared more for the 5 E's of the lesson design. So engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. It has a nice organized look to it. So if any of these templates, maybe they look like something that they work for you or maybe not, there are so many more templates out there. So if I click here, this is a link to Pinterest, and you can see there are hundreds of different HyperDocs that are already created. Like I said, you can use any of these to kind of tailor to fit your needs. So last thing about my presentation, if I go back to this link to the home, takes us back to the beginning of my HyperDoc. The last piece is really just to kind of explore this topic and apply and create your own HyperDoc. So there are a lot of resources that help you set up your first HyperDoc. They kind of guide you through the process. This link I have here has a nice step-by-step process you can follow, kind of things to consider when creating your HyperDoc, different just steps to go through. They give you some tips and tricks at the bottom. Again, if you're creating your first HyperDoc, I think it's a very valuable resource that can help you through the process. So I appreciate you guys listening. If you have any questions about HyperDocs, I'd be glad to help you. Thanks.